What is up, y'all?
Ah, there it is.
I've noticed the nods.
Yeah.
I've started noticing that in editing, and I appreciate that you nod along with me.
It feels good to.
I had to catch you off guard a little bit. I
Yeah.
hope actually, let's just start this off. If you're watching or listening right now, let me know if you nod along with that intro as well.
It's like the riff. I know the riff is coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Well, what is up, y'all? Welcome to the show. We, of course, are the Alternates. I am your host, Brian Cullen, and with me, as always, is everyone's favorite, the Adam Silver to my Robert Sarver.
I don't know if I want this one.
Clayton, I don't know if I do either, but nobody's winning
Yeah,
here.
you're Robert Sarver in this one. Oh my God.
Clayton Stevens.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see you.
Yeah, disturbing start to the day.
Got to make sure people are listening, you know?
Yeah.
This is how we do it. That's just good marketing right there. That's all that is. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Thank you for joining us. Before we jump in, I want to take just a quick second, ask you all to subscribe to the show on YouTube. That is youtube.com/thealternates. And if you're listening to the podcast, go ahead and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you have chosen to absorb and take in this beautiful content that we're bringing to you.
Yep.
Like the video, leave us a comment, drop a rating and review. All of that goes a long way in helping us out with the algorithms, and it helps people just like you find us so that we can continue to build this incredible little community. If you want to get a hold of us, you can do so by emailing the show, thealternatehoop@gmail.com, and go ahead and follow us on TikTok at The Alternates NBA. Clayton, before I even ask you how the hell you are, I got to say it's good to see you in the studio.
Yeah, back in the studio.
Back in the stew. I think last time we talked about getting back here, I maybe teased that we would be done with the what do we want to call it? Reconstruction.
Yeah.
What's the word when you like redo
Remodel?
something? Remodel. Thank you. Two great starts to the show here. The remodel of the studio, still not done yet. I'm going to talk to the property manager and put my foot down. This has got to get done. We got to finish this place.
So
unbelievable.
It's tough to be the third tenant. You know?
Yeah, we are the Clippers here in the studio.
Exactly.
How the hell are you?
I'm good. The Aces won the championship.
They're
WNBA championship.
well deserved.
Well deserved. They were far and away the best team.
Yeah.
It's not even close.
No.
It reminded me of, we won't go too far, but it reminded me of the Warriors with KD, not because the talent was that stacked, which, I mean, in a way it kind of is. Yeah. But in terms of, you would watch their games and at times it was a little your turn, my turn.
Totally. They
would fall out of rhythm at times. And then if they just played team basketball for 5 minutes, they could blow out anybody.
Yeah.
And of course, their season comes down that same kind of way where they're all trying to play hero ball. It doesn't work out. They finally start moving the ball. Open threes go down. Game's over. They go over the top. Becky Hammon is champion her rookie season.
Love to see it.
It was a lot of fun to watch. I was watching it. I mean, mid-afternoon championship. It was kind of weird.
Yeah. WNBA game times are...
We got to do something about the trophy. The trophy's a disaster.
Yeah.
The time of day that it was on was a disaster. But other than that, great WNBA playoffs. I really enjoyed it.
Great season.
Great season.
Obviously, the Aces, great throughout the whole season. There were several teams at the top there.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for the next few years. I love to call the Orlando Magic in the NBA the sleeping giant.
Yeah.
There's a sleeping giant in New York in the W.
The Liberty.
Oh my God, they're going to be so good over the next couple years.
The Liberty and the Wings. I think those are two teams to look out for going forward. But I'm good. It was a fun weekend to watch that stuff, and the NBA's starting to heat up just a little bit.
Just a little. The heat's up a little.
So
it's lukewarm.
I'm getting excited, and I'm excited that we're back in here and hanging out. How you doing, Brian?
I'm good. You just also, before we move on to me, you just did a little baseball road trip, no?
A little baseball road trip, knocked off a couple stadiums that weirdly hadn't been to. Never been to Oracle Park, which is the Giants stadium out there in San Francisco.
Oh, you've never been?
Which is crazy. I've been to the Coliseum in Oakland.
Well, yeah, they paid you to go to the Coliseum in Oakland.
Man, don't be hating on my A's. Come
No,
on.
I love it. But like literally when I lived in Oakland,
no. It's by far the worst baseball stadium. It's not even close.
they just can't like, literally there was a Chevron station next to my house that if you filled up your car, it would print out an A's ticket. I'm not joking. I'm not making this up.
I know.
You get a free A's ticket for buying gas at Chevron.
Yeah. So shout out to the A's, but no, the Giant Stadium. And I went to 2 games. It's
beautiful there. I love that park.
I went to a day game and a night game, so got the full experience. Amazing stadium, and then also was in Seattle, which is an amazing city, amazing stadium. A team that, when I was a little kid, I rooted for the Mariners because of Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, Ken Griffey, come on, man.
So for me, it was like going back to like I bought a Mariners hat for the first time in
Totally get it.
20 years, and I was like, this just feels right.
Yeah.
I'm just having a blast. So and they're really good, and they're going to the playoffs for the first time in 20 years
Since Ken Griffey.
Yeah, I mean, literally.
Yeah.
I think it was since 2002 was the last time they were in the playoffs. So very exciting time, and it was like, again, we're going too much into this, but it was an insane game too. It was like, it was one of the games of the season where the Mariners were up 5-1 going into the 9th inning. The Braves, who's my partner's team, who we traveled to see, they scored 5 runs in the 9th inning.
Wow.
Back-to-back home runs. Place went dead silent. It was like, oh my God. Then in the bottom of the 9th, their young stud, Julio Rodriguez, hit a home run to tie it again, and then walk-off home run. Place was going nuts. It was crazy because it was one of those games where it was like pretty chill the whole time. Mariners were comfortably leading, and then the 9th inning, just like gasoline went off, and all of a sudden 4 home runs were hit in the last 30 minutes of the game.
Wow.
So, great trip, super fun. Baseball is, it's just crazy right now. We can't even get into it, but it's a wild time. It's going to be an insane playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might watch the playoffs.
Oh, it's juicy this year.
I love hearing you talk about visiting the Mariners stadium because of that, childhood nostalgia. Like I had the same experience. I promise we'll get to the show soon. I had a similar experience, years back, going to Houston and going to Toyota Center, because my favorite player growing up was Akeem Olajuwon.
Yep.
And I'd never been to a Rockets game when he was there. And so just being able to get into the building where Hakeem played and won 2 titles, it was just such a cool experience.
I got to do that for United Center. I got to see the Bulls
I've been
in person.
Yeah.
I mean, just seeing it on TV still gives me the nostalgia to the 90s and that whole era. So got to go to Chicago, got to do it there one time.
Years ago, I went and watched the Clippers play there, and Jerry Springer was sitting courtside.
Chicago legend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jerry and Jerry's literal kids were with him. Not Jerry's kids, but Jerry's literal kids were with him. But yeah, I'm good. I've been busy, but I'm happy to be back here in the studio. So the last time we did an episode, we went through the Eastern Conference head coaches, and we took a look to see who was unpacked, who was packing, who hadn't unpacked yet. We're looking at job security here. We're taking this to the West Conference now, and we're going to see, and there's a couple things we're going to go through in here as we go through these coaches, but the one thing that stood out to me is how many kind of newer coaches there are in the Western Conference. Yeah. And newer to, yes, brand new head coaches, but also guys that have only recently been with their teams. And it made me think, and maybe you could, if you disagree, feel free to push back. But I was like, the Western Conference has been such a powerhouse for the last, 15 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
At least,
yeah.
That it's so much more cutthroat for coaches because there's so much competition. It's such a brutal conference to be in that I feel like maybe the coaching leash is a little bit shorter in the Western Conference, and that's why we've seen so much more turnover.
Interesting. It's tough to say. I think you could argue either way, because in the West, I think it's a lot of teams with a lot of expectations, right? Yeah. Whereas in the Eastern Conference, we've had a lot of coaches who've maybe been fired because they didn't meet a lower level of expectation.
Sure, yeah.
Right? So it's like the Western Conference ones maybe are more notable because we're talking about good teams.
Totally.
You know, like
that makes sense.
Like an OKC Durant team letting go, hiring Billy Donovan in the middle of a really good run. Right. Like it's like that's a huge league changing coaching hire. Whereas in the Eastern Conference, you know, a lot of times when we're looking at the coaching carousel, it'll be, okay, who's coaching Charlotte now, or you know, these teams that
I think David Blatt might be the best example of that with the Cavs, where they were having a good season and they were like, nope, not good enough. Like,
right, exactly. So, but yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting in the West. I think you're right. There's some younger blood in the coaching ranks in the Western Conference now, and some, you know, more of those truly rebuilding teams in the West.
Now,
which is interesting.
Very recent.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get into it.
Yep.
We're going through these alphabetical by city, as we did in the last episode. So we're going to start with the Dallas Mavericks. Jason Kidd, he's been their head coach for one season. He's heading into a second season. They were 52-30 last year, made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. Now, he's been a head coach for 6 years. He was with the Bucks before he was fired in Milwaukee. Took some time off and then joined the Mavs.
And he was the coach of the Nets, right?
Oh, you're right. He was. Yeah, I almost forgot about that.
Briefly, but
like literally retired and then put on a tie and became the coach.
Essentially, yeah.
Such a turnaround. So his coaching record, overall career, is 235 to 220.
Higher than I would have put it at.
Same. Because I feel like his Milwaukee years were so disappointing in a way that I was kind of shocked to see him over 500.
Yeah.
But how comfortable is he this next season?
So comfortable. Like,
I have to agree.
I like he proved a ton. You know,
he proved me wrong. I have very low expectations for him.
100%. I did too. I thought, you know, with the Bucks, he made a lot of strange decisions. I think that was sort of universally noted by fans and critics alike, was just that he made very odd decisions with that roster. But seemingly he has said the right things, and obviously Luka's Luka. He's had, to me, almost no impact on Luka, but he's had such an impact on the rest of the team.
Defensively, specifically.
Right? And so from that perspective, that's what's going to get this team to the next level. It did take this team to the next level. I think he's probably looking to, you know, upgrade his living situation there in Dallas.
All right.
I think like
he
probably got a nice little starter thing to settle in, see how it goes. And after that Western Conference Finals appearance, you know, hit up the realtor and say, hey, let's spend a little dough.
Get me in a house. Something nice. I'm done with the condo. Get me in a house.
Let's get something nice.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. My only question would be, is he a little less secure because of the Western Conference appearance if they don't make it back to that, like for next season? And maybe that's something we look into after this season.
I think he has at least a season of wiggle room here.
Sure.
They're not, I don't think, even if you put their front office in a room and said, give them a little truth serum, like, do you think you're going to win the title this year? I think they'd say no, we're on our way. Sure. We're putting the pieces in place. We have our coach.
Okay. All right. Next, we got the Denver Nuggets. We've got Michael, don't call me Mike Malone.
That's him.
7 years with the Nuggets. He's been a head coach for 9 years. Last year, the Nuggets went 48-34. Almost 50 wins in a season without Jamal Murray is crazy.
A lot of Compazzo.
Yeah, a lot of Compazzo. Dude, that first half of the season was Compazzo's season.
Yeah.
Overall with the Nuggets, 314 to 241. Now, this next number is what makes me laugh, because his career record as a head coach is 353 to 308. So 353 career wins, 314 of those are with the Nuggets, which means those 2 years in Sacramento were brutal for him. Brutal.
Yeah, when you put it that way.
I would argue that the talent level on the Kings, the 2 years he was there, on paper was better than his first 2 years in Denver.
Oh, I think that's totally fair. And I think, we heard guys like DeMarcus Cousins say that they were really disappointed in him being let go because it felt like they were actually building something.
Yeah.
Like it felt like they were moving in a good direction. Yeah, the win totals obviously aren't going to blow you away, but it felt like the team was moving in a good direction. Obviously, Denver looked at that situation and said, well, I kind of like what he's doing.
Totally.
And yeah, he feels super comfortable here.
Dude,
I mean, I think it's kind of just up to him really at this point. Like he's a core piece for them.
Yes.
You're talking about him in the same sentence you're talking about guys like Jamal Murray and Jokic.
Oh, I think it literally like the pecking order in Denver, and I'm talking the entire organization, is Jokic, Murray, Michael Malone, and then maybe Porter Jr.
No, for sure. And they left Tim Conley, the president there, left the team.
Yeah.
So even more so, I think this allows Michael to fill that leadership role that he's continued to have there. And I mean,
he's already upgraded. He's so unpacked.
He knows all the neighbors, all the grocery store clerks. Yeah. They're all friends. He's entrenched in Denver.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, all right. Yeah, when you drive into Denver, the sign says, "Welcome to Denver." And then it's just a picture of Jokic and Michael Malone under it.
Just like cheersing a beer.
Yeah. Huge beers. Yeah. All right, next we got the Golden State Warriors. Yeah. We're going to move through this one pretty quick. Steve Kerr, 8 years as head coach with the Warriors, 8 years as head coach in the NBA. They went 53-29. They won the title last year. This number, and I know how good the Warriors have been with Steve Kerr, still shocking to see when I was writing it down. Here's his coaching record with the Warriors. 429-200. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane.
Yeah. I mean, that's also considering they had a 39-33 season in 2020-21.
Yeah. 73-win season helped them out a lot with those numbers there.
It did. But I mean, a couple of not great win total seasons and to still have 429-200 over 8 years. It's incredible. He's the safest coach on this list because of his age, where he's at, his place on the team, etc. I think he is the safest coach.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
But we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Because there's a name on this list that I think is the safest. But yeah, Steve Kerr he's got a home in every city in the Bay Area.
Oh, God,
and unpacked, fully furnished. Steve Kerr, safe. Houston Rockets, Steven Silas, 2 years with the Rockets, 2 years as head coach, 20-62 last year.
Yeah.
37-117 in his career. Now, this one is interesting to me because obviously the Rockets are in a, rebuild phase right now, but heading into the third year of a rebuild, I think this is when things get a little more serious for a head coach.
Sure, yeah.
I don't think that he's necessarily, got a moving truck sitting outside of his house idling, but I also feel like he's maybe spent the summer just packing up tchotchkes, right? Like I think the furniture is still where it is, but I think the little things, the little final touches on a home have started going in boxes just because I think the pressure is a little bit on. Year 3 of a rebuild, you want to start to see some results.
I'm going to push back on that even. I think he has never unpacked. And let me tell you why.
Ooh, okay.
The man was hired to coach James Harden and John Wall.
Yeah.
And a competing team. Immediately, as soon as he's hired, the team is blown to bits.
Yeah.
And suddenly he's a rebuilding coach, which, credit to him. I don't know. I have no idea if that's what he wanted, if he was ever interested in something like that, but that's what's been placed in front of him. And I just think since his tenure has begun, I guess as of last year, they have a clear direction. We're tanking, we're rebuilding.
Yeah.
But there's just no job security to me. To me, he is just since James Harden went out the door, I don't think it's ever been clear. Like Steven Silas is our guy.
Yeah.
He's the development coach we've always needed. Like he's just the guy who was there.
Sure.
And I think that they just don't
He's
care
the
about
last
wins.
vestige.
That's it. And they just don't care about wins and losses. Maybe he's a great development coach. I honestly have no idea. But I think he easily could be on the hot seat. He easily could be safe. He's just in an odd position because of when he took the job, and I don't know. He
got home, he started opening boxes, and then the James Harden news came in, and he just closed the flaps and put the tape back on.
Exactly. And he's just been eating off paper plates and texting with Jalen Green since. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. That's fair. All right. Next, we've got the Clippers. This one I think is a little interesting. Tyronn Lue, 2 years as head coach with the Clippers. 6 years total as a head coach in the NBA. Last year, the Clippers went 42-40, got into the play-in, were eliminated in the play-in tournament. His numbers as the head coach of the Clippers have been 89-65.
Really good.
Really good. And his head coaching numbers career-wise, 217-148. He has coached some great teams. He won a championship in Cleveland. I'm going to take this one to start. I feel like he's comfortable. You know, I think after the Western Conference appearance, the season before last, he unpacked the final boxes. He put everything away. I think he's safe for now. I think this season tells us a lot, though, because first season as head coach, gets the Clippers to the Western Conference Finals, never been there as a franchise. Second season, your stars are hurt. Overachieved, yeah. I think overall overachieved. Yeah. This next season, though, this season coming up, if Kawhi and Paul George are both healthy, and they don't look like a top team, they don't look like world beaters, they underachieved this year, I think he heads down to U-Haul and he starts grabbing boxes. Because if there's anything that I know about Steve Ballmer, it's that he wants to win. And I think at a certain point, look, he's been a great head coach. You know, I love the Clippers. I love Tyronn Lue. But I do think that it will get much more serious after this season if they don't make some waves.
I'm going to push back. I think if that season were to happen, we would see a lot of different people moved out. And I don't think Tyronn Lue would be one of them.
Okay.
I think
I'm not saying he's guaranteed gone if the season doesn't go well.
I think Paul George and Kawhi Leonard would be the guys that they would be looking to move.
Wow.
If we're talking about this team, wins 42 games and is the 8th seed, I don't think Tyronn Lue's going anywhere. I think he proved last year, give me a development team, give me a good team, give me any team.
That's interesting.
He's a really good coach. I think Steve Ballmer knows, unless you have something better in the pipeline, you shouldn't move on unless you have something that you feel better about. And Ty Lue, by all accounts, is a top 3 head coach in this league.
Okay.
So I think he's actually safer than even someone like Lawrence Frank. I think I could see a front office move. I could see a player move. I think he's one of the pieces that with his age, the sort of place he's at in his career, I think he's a guy you want to build around.
Okay.
That's my opinion. So
interesting.
Who knows? You're right. I mean, a lot of times front offices, that's the move that they're going to go for. But with the Clippers and Steve Ballmer, it is a unique situation because he's so involved as an owner.
Yeah.
That, decisions could be a lot different with their team as opposed to others, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's the Lawrence Frank thing is interesting because
he's had a long runway.
He has, but he's also brought in Kawhi, he brought in Paul George, he 100%. Brought in Norman Powell. He's brought in a lot of talent, and so that's I'd have to really think about between those two, Lawrence Frank and Tyronn Lue, who I actually think curries a little more favor with Steve Ballmer. And now I think I've got to say it's Lawrence Frank because he is. he's blundered a couple moves, but when he splashes, he makes a big splash.
No doubt about it. But he's put a lot of chips on the table.
Totally.
Right? Like the guy has...
Basically every chip is on the table at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, credit to him that he found a way somehow in the last year to like get pieces back and rebuild a little bit without much. So again, credit to Lawrence Frank there, but those expectations are high. So that's kind of why I say like, again, I don't think Tyronn Lue or Lawrence Frank are packing up anything.
Sure, yeah.
But I think they're stressed about their situation and feeling like this is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
These next 2 seasons are everything to this franchise, and we need to come through.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to see where that goes. We're going to stay in LA with the Lakers. Darvin Ham, never been a head coach. Going into his first year, I have no career head coaching numbers whatsoever for this dude. Literally on my list here says LA Lakers, Darvin Ham, all the other columns are blank. Now, he's coming from Coach Bud's tree, which is a branch that grew off the Popovich tree. This one is interesting to me, though, right? Like you would say first year head coach, you get at least a season. But the Lakers are such an organization with a history of winning. We know how much that means to them. They don't like to be down. Last season was an absolute disaster for them. They made some, I think they made a couple nice moves in the offseason, but not ones that I think are massive and like massively increase their chances of being, a championship contender, back into a conversation where nobody's questioning that they're one of the teams. What's Darvin? Is Darvin Ham just leaving everything on the truck, or has he at least brought some of the stuff into his new place?
I think still in boxes.
Yeah.
In a place.
Off the truck.
Okay. In boxes. But I got a little trivia for you.
Okay.
When it comes to the Lakers.
All right.
I want to know if you can name the coaches that the Lakers have had over the last 10 years.
Oh
okay, so I am going back here. So it's 2022, so we're going into the 22-23 season.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring it back to 2011-12, right? So basically 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? So Phil Jackson was the coach from 2005 to 2011.
Yeah.
Can you name the coaches since Phil Jackson? 2011. So the 11-12 season up to the 21-22 season.
Let me see what I can do here.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave Yeager.
No.
Or not Dave Yeager. Wait.
The Lakers.
The Lakers. Okay. It was Byron Scott.
He's one of them. He coached from 14 to 16.
Can you tell me how many there are?
I can't tell you. So there's, including an interim coach, which that's a clue.
Okay.
There have been 6.
Wow.
Darvin Ham will now be the 7th.
Okay.
So there were 6 over those 10 years.
Okay, so we had Byron Scott. We had Shaw. Was Shaw one of the coaches?
Assistant coach, never a head coach.
Okay. Interim was JB Bickerstaff ever an interim head coach for the Lakers?
JB Bickerstaff's father, Bernie Bickerstaff, was the 2012 interim coach.
Okay. Wow. So interim runs in the family. And
interim does run in the family. That's correct.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Who else was?
So you have 2.
Luke Walton.
Luke Walton, of course, 16 to 19.
Luke Walton.
He followed Byron Scott.
So
how about this? So there you go. So the point is 6 head coaches in the last 10 years.
Give me the other 3.
7th in the last 11 years, essentially. So we had Phil Jackson from 5 to 11. Mike Brown from 11 to 12 was fired during the 2012 season.
Wow. Okay.
Replaced by Bernie Bickerstaff.
Yeah.
They went out and made a huge splash in 2012, which you'll now remember, Mike D'Antoni.
That's right.
For 2 seasons, 12 to 14. He was let go. They brought in Byron Scott for 2 dreadful seasons, 14 to 16. Luke Walton replaced him 16-19, and of course he was replaced by Frank Vogel,
Frank Vogel.
19-22.
That's what I was thinking of when I said Dave Yeager.
And now Darvin Ham. So again, it doesn't matter who you are. You could be Mike Brown, Mike D'Antoni, Frank Vogel, guys with pretty good track records of being good coaches.
Yeah.
They've been let go after a couple of years.
Wow.
So he shouldn't be too comfortable regardless of anything just because they're the Lakers.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think he's probably feeling like he's got a little runway here.
Okay. Yeah. I agree with that. But yeah, I don't think he's unpacking a lot.
No. And when I looked that up, I was like, they've had a lot of coaches, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they've had a lot of coaches.
Okay. Next, we've got the Memphis Grizzlies with the oldest 38-year-old I've ever seen in my life, Taylor Jenkins.
Yeah.
3 years as a head coach, 3 years with the Grizz, 56-26 last season, 128-99 as a head coach. He's not only unpacked and all of that, he is on first name basis with every employee at the Pyramid Bass Pro Shop in downtown Memphis.
Definitely.
Taylor Jenkins is as safe as they get in a lot of ways.
I think so. You know, I will say I think he's probably one season away from an upgrade. From like he's super comfortable.
If they make a conference finals appearance,
they go on another good run here, have another really successful season. He's probably looking at a contract extension, probably looking at a real nice long-term future there. If they falter, they fall back a little bit, you know, we'll see. That's sort of where I'm at with him, but I think he's very close to being like, you know, untouchable.
Yeah. And I actually think that his leash, even though it was never, you know, tight, is a little bit looser with Jaren Jackson Jr. being out, you know, for probably the first half of the season.
Yeah, and you know, he's dealt with that his entire tenure really as a head coach.
Shit, they were without Jaw last year and still dominated without him.
And Jaren has missed a lot of time in his tenure. So, you know, and he's gotten a lot out of these guys. And the front office has not done him any favors necessarily in terms of like high-end talent. They've said, try and make it work with kids.
Well, they're playing
the long game,
yeah.
And he's done a really good job with that. So, like, I think that's actually given him more security than the typical coach of this sort of time period. So, yeah, no, he's super safe.
This next one I think might be the most interesting. The Minnesota Timberwolves, Chris Finch, 2 years with the team, 2 years as a head coach. Last season, they went 46-36. They had that incredible run in the play-in tournament. They played a great series.
They should have beaten the Grizzlies.
They played a great series against Memphis.
Have beaten the Grizzlies.
I mean, they led through 3/4 of most of those games.
Yeah, they should have won.
62-61 in his 2 years with the Wolves. Now, what I think is interesting about this one is, much like the Lakers, the Wolves just run through head coaches.
Yeah, and he was hired halfway through a season.
Yeah, run through these coaches. And I think the expectations are much higher going into this next season, not only because they looked really good in the playoffs but fell short, but they've created this Twin Towers system now with Rudy Gobert. They gave up a lot of assets to get him. There's, I think, a lot of pressure on Chris Finch. I personally think it would be a mistake to fire another head coach. You know, like Cat has played basically with a different head coach almost every season that he's been in the league.
Truly, yeah.
Where do you think he is in the packing or unpacking process?
I hate to say it because I think I'm with you. I think it would be a mistake to move on from him. And I think, you know, the people I know in my life who are Timberwolves fans are big fans of him.
Yeah.
And he has a really good... Sometimes a coach really fits the city that they coach.
Yeah.
And I feel like Chris Finch really fits Minneapolis. He's got that Midwestern vibe. There's just an ease and a truthfulness to him when he speaks that I think really has a...
He's got the nice.
He really does. He's got that Minnesota nice thing, but he's tough.
Yeah.
But look, bringing in Tim Conley, who is a guy who is, as we've seen as a president, been really unafraid to go with what he believes in, which is, drafting Jokic and then having Jokic and Nurkic and making a choice very early.
Yeah.
Jokic. And nobody saw that coming, right? So, like, he's a guy who he's going to go with whatever he believes in, regardless of what the, traditional things would tell you, which we now know. He comes to Minnesota. The first thing he does, trades all the draft picks they have to go get Rudy Gobert to pair Karl Anthony Towns as a 4. So would I be surprised for Chris Finch to get fired? No, because they have a new president who has his own ideas about what basketball are. And I have no idea if Chris Finch fits into that. So I think he's probably a little nervous.
Yeah.
And I think
he was nervous the day he got hired.
Yeah, but I think probably at the end of the playoff run last season, he was probably thinking, hey, maybe an upgrade. Maybe, I think I like it here. It feels like we're building something. And then the president comes in and goes, well, I'm going to trade half your team. And here's a brand new roster that we have no idea if it's going to work or not. And we're all in, by the way.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of pressure on Chris Finch right now. I think he's definitely on the hot seat and definitely texting his real estate agent, asking his family what other cities they might want to live in. But if this works, he has a chance to be really safe.
Oh, absolutely.
I think, right? Because he's shown a lot already. Yeah. He just has to prove it again, which tough break for him. But if he can prove this team goes on and wins 50 games this year, I feel like he has a really solid spot there.
Yeah. I wonder if they have head coach housing. It's like this, just apartment that the team has that the head coaches first move into. And it's like the apartment from Shawshank Redemption. And it says, Brooks was here, but it's like every coach from the last decade has carved their names on a piece of wood on the wall because, Ryan Saunders was here. Yeah. And they, just kind of go through that because that's what it feels like. All right. Next, we got the New Orleans Pelicans. Willie Green just wrapped up his first season as a head coach, first season with the Pelicans. 36-46, really scrappy season from them last year.
After a crazy bad start. Let us not forget.
Oh, yeah.
I think they went 1-14?
Something like
that.
It was
1-12. It was a terrible start to the season.
I think he unpacked this summer. I think that the fact that he took a 36-46 team to the play-in, made them a really scrappy team. People know who Jose Alvarado is now. And he's getting Zion back. Seems like he might have repaired that relationship a bit with Zion and the franchise. I like what Willie Green has done. I think that his vision is clear. I think that he has, in a single year, started to set an identity for this team.
Yes.
He got Brandon Ingram into the All-Star game. I think Willie Green unpacked this summer.
I agree. The only thing I'll say about it, though, is that he's such a young head coach.
Yeah.
And so fresh out of playing. I feel like he's kind of still just living in his car. This dude's just grinding tape. Yeah. He's at that stage in his life. There's the young professional in their early 20s who you can grind at that age, right? You can afford to I'm living in a studio apartment that I'm sharing with a roommate for some reason.
Yeah, and I work 18 hours a day.
Because I just need a place to sleep.
Yeah.
And that's it. I feel like that's where Willie Green is right now. He's just so much tape. Watching tape and just digesting everything. And his living situation doesn't even matter. He isn't real estate agent.
He unloaded the moving truck. But he's living inside the moving truck now because he ran an extension cord from the house into the truck, and there's no computer and a table, and he's just sitting there running tape, and he has Post-it notes all over the wall of the inside of the U-Haul where he's writing scheme ideas down and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. He has one TV that's just playing Zion's Duke season on the loop. He's just grinding right now. This dude, he doesn't care about where he lives, nothing. It's just like, I'm just eating whatever I can shove in my gullet before the next practice.
Oh, no, I don't think he's just chain smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
He's not even eating. He's just,
Yeah.
He's the Marlboro man right now.
Yeah, Willie Green is just on that grind right now.
Right. But I think that's keeping him safe.
I agree.
I think that's keeping him safe.
I agree.
All right. OKC, Mark Daigneault, second year with the Thunder, second year as a head coach, 24-58. His number overall, 46 and 108.
Paying him to get those losses.
Chet Holmgren came in. Chet Holmgren is out. I think he's safe simply because exactly what you just said. They're not interested in winning. You know, with the Chet news getting injured, I think they were like, well, still got a bunch of picks. Let's just be bad for another year. Let's get one more piece in here. Let's maybe see if we can move Shea for something.
I think it's going to happen.
I think that's happening this season, and we'll go from there. But I think that that's really all I have to say about it. I don't think he moved with much. I think he's unpacked because his 7 boxes were not that much trouble to unpack. And he's just kind of riding it out for right now. I think next season is when the question really pops up.
Yeah, he's a really interesting coach because when he's been given the best versions of their roster, when he has started out the season with health, with the pieces in place, he has been legitimately good.
Yeah.
And they have had moments where they've won way more than anyone could have expected.
Totally.
And I've noticed in those moments, I've seen him draw up great plays. Like, the guy certainly has something. There's something to him.
Yeah.
They seem to win when they're healthy, and he seems to be a part of it.
He's kind of like a Nick Nurse. He's just waiting for the team.
Exactly. I can't fully buy into him as a coach because I think his hands are just so tied by the franchise.
Totally.
And they're telling him to make decisions that aren't winning ones.
Yeah.
And that's on purpose, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, half of it I think is for good reason. Like, hey, we want to see if Moses Brown can play. That's fair.
Yeah.
You know, where they're at, that's totally fair. Half of it I don't like. You know, just, you know, they're putting out a bad product. So it's just,
I think what you're saying, though, is that like when he's given the pieces and allowed to coach, he's shown that he's more than capable and he's good at it.
He's certainly capable.
So I think that they're just kind of like, hey, man, just coast a little bit.
It's a holding pattern.
When we get the team, we're going to let you cook. We know that you're able to do
How
this.
long will his leash be once that happens? I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. The situation's just weird.
Totally.
I mean, for him, I think it's probably a situation of like, because he was their G League coach before he took over. He probably just like never moved, never did, like whatever life he was living in the G League, he's still living in the NBA.
Yeah.
I would venture to guess, and we don't know this for a fact, but I would venture to guess he is the least paid coach in the league.
Oh,
and
by far,
I think that also probably gives him some job stability here while the team is doing their best to have a very low payroll and suck.
The
which I'm
process
hating more and more
Thunder
every day. I hate them.
Yeah, I'm over it.
Yeah, I'm over it.
All right, Phoenix Suns, Monty Williams, 3 years with the Suns, 8 years as a head coach, 64-18, best team in the league last year, completely, no pun intended, flamed out in the playoffs. With the Suns, he's 149-78, which
phenomenal.
is unreal.
Yeah.
And as a head coach overall, 322 and 299. Still great.
Really good, yeah.
I think that he is completely unpacked. I think that he is as safe. Like what you were saying about Tyronn Lue is how I feel about Monty Williams at this point. That they are more likely to move a guy like Chris Paul than they are to fire Monty Williams. He really, I think, solidified his security with the franchise in the bubble. When they went 8-0, perfect to start. And just because of other teams' wins, missed the playoffs. But he completely turned around an abysmal franchise.
Yep.
He got them to the finals. I think it would take 2 years of disaster before he started to like feel unsafe.
Well, we know no big decisions are coming for the Suns this year.
Yeah.
They have a year off of making decisions.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, dude.
Hey, that plays a role.
It does, and without getting too much into it, I actually think he's got 2 years to fly under the radar because there's that, and then the next season there's going to be all kinds of controversy about, hey, we all know what you did, and now you're back. And I'm talking about Sarver coming back.
If he comes back.
Right.
There's a lot to be. We will dive into that at some point soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that's a really good call. I think he is one of the safest people in the Suns organization. It's probably him and Devin Booker, probably the two safest people that feel like they're going to be here for the long term. You know, the type of person you want to build your team around. I think did a lot to show like, not only can I work with stars, but I do a really good job with the other guys.
I mean,
the DeAndre Ayton situation is the only thing that gives me pause. That was super weird. His comment after the playoffs was super weird.
Yeah.
But I think he's earned the right to say like, let's see how it goes.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. Like that was weird.
Yeah.
It's gonna be weird to start, but he's earned the right as a coach to say like, let's see. Maybe he's going to be able to work it out, and it's not going to be a big deal as we all think it is.
He has a record of getting the most out of underachieving teams. He did it with New Orleans. He got Anthony Davis in the playoffs for the first time in his career.
Yeah.
You know, like this is what he does. All right, moving on. Portland Trailblazers, Chauncey Billups. Just finished his first year as a head coach, 27-55. Weird season. They blew it up. They brought in some more talent. Dame is coming back. I think Chauncey is pretty comfortable actually going into this next season.
I totally disagree.
I think this season he's comfortable. After this season, it's a sharp graph for me.
Okay, I get that, but I'm gonna say this. Look, they've made some all-in moves going to get a guy like Jeremy Grant. You know, they've moved assets to get better.
Yeah,
the team is likely for sale. Okay, that throws a big wrench into all of this. Yes, Dame is there, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to ask for a trade at some point.
Right.
Like this could end overnight. Like
I think Dame is less secure there than Chauncey Billups, because either they say this isn't working, the Dame show is over, trade him, or Dame says I want out, and then they trade him. Either way, I think Chauncey Billups still has another secure year under
Interesting. Yeah, I could see Chauncey leaving this year. I just don't see why you would keep him around. I don't think he's really proven anything. There was controversy, of course, when he got hired right away. The fan base hasn't really gotten behind him. Again, with the sale of the team, Dame's questions in the future. I just think like nobody should feel comfortable in Portland right now. Like there could be a lot of change coming soon.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll say one thing to this.
Yeah, go ahead.
For Chauncey Billups. He was the one who really developed young talent for the Clippers, and that's what kind of put his name on the map in terms of coaching, and the Blazers picked him up. That's why I think Dame would be the first out, because it almost felt like they hired him with this like, we'll see what he can do with a good team, but if we blow this thing up, we also know that he's a good development coach.
Okay, I think that's a good point. I don't know that I've seen enough from him to say he's a development coach, but you're right. I think that's probably what they had in mind.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
All right, Sacramento Kings, Mike Brown. I think Vivek has unpacked Mike Brown's boxes for him. I think he moved all of his belongings while the Warriors were in the finals. I think that he's good. I think there's one box missing from Vivek's whole project of moving him, and Vivek might have let a box fall off the truck, and he's just sitting at home trying to get whiffs of the Warriors out of the box, because that is all he is interested in.
Yeah.
He's going into his first year as their head coach. He has been a head coach before. As you said, he coached for the Lakers. 8 years of head coach experience, with like 8 years since then. As a longtime assistant head coach in the league. His record as a head coach in those 8 years, though, 347 to 216.
Better than I would have thought.
I think that if he is going to pack up and put things back on a moving truck. It is going to be his call. I know that the Kings have moved through a lot of head coaches, but this is a Warriors guy. We know that this Buddy
And it's
Hield,
not Luke Walton.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
the
Luke
important
Walton.
distinction here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot more. He's got actual prior experience in head coaching.
Very
here.
respected person in basketball.
Yeah.
Period.
I think he's good.
I totally agree. My one caveat is that at Steve Kerr's house, he has a room with a bed in it and a computer and some stuff. And every once in a while, he texts Steve Kerr and he's like, is that room still empty?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. He's like, okay. I just need to know just in case. And I can just drive back from Sacramento, shell up at your house for a few weeks before I get rehired by the Warriors.
Hey, Steve, is the room open? Yeah, it's still open. All right, cool. Thank you. Vivek, another refill, please?
Exactly.
That's what's happening. All right. San Antonio Spurs, Greg Popovich, 26 years as a head coach, 26 years in San Antonio, 34-48 last season. Get ready for this number. Here's his career coaching record. 1,344 to 701. They have been under 500 for the last 3 seasons. It's the only time in his career that he's been under 500 as a head coach. And it's the last 3 years.
Wow.
He has been... So when I was going through his numbers, I was like, oh, his first season, they only won 34 games. And I was like, wait, that was 34 out of 50. That was a lockout year.
Right.
So he was well over 500.
Wow.
He has never been below 500 as a head coach.
I was going to say, what about the first year? But yeah, there you go. Wow.
Nope. And so this is who I think is the safest. Now, is he the most likely to stay? No. But I think everything is completely on his terms. I think that he is the safest coach across the entire NBA. Whatever Popovich says is what will happen. I don't see any scenario in which the San Antonio Brass fires Greg Popovich. I think that the city of San Antonio would burn the state of Texas to the ground if that happened.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. It's Pop's decision.
Yeah.
Whenever he wants to go, he'll go. I think we're all little. Are you as surprised as I am that he is still here?
I think we're going into his last season.
It's just going to be interesting because it felt unimaginable that he's going to, and I think, go ahead and book it right now. They're going to win less than 34 games this year.
Yeah. Well, they set it up to.
And again, like, as opposed to OKC, I think this team has really earned the right to play a bunch of kids. Like, if any team has earned the right to play 18 and 19-year-olds and see what they have, it's this team.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's strange. It's a strange situation, but...
Quick tinfoil for you?
Yeah.
All right. He told Becky Hammon, get a head coaching job in the W. People need to view you as a head coach. Go win. I know that you will dominate out there, especially when he knew that the Aces were on the table. They were already one of the best teams in the league. Go win a championship. I'm going to stay here. We're going to blow this thing up. I'm going to get them really low. I'm going to get them a high draft pick. And then I'm going to talk to them about bringing you back to replace me. Now that you have a head coaching job under your belt, you did it at a championship level, and now it's your turn to come in and get your Tim Duncan and take the reins.
I wish that were true. But I just don't think so.
I mean, yeah, but let me dream here a little bit.
Yeah, I love it.
Tinfoil.
Dude, every team besides maybe the Warriors, the Clippers, and I guess the Spurs here should be kicking themselves in the ass right now that they didn't get her. Dude, watching her in the playoffs just carve up other teams on out of bounds plays.
Yeah.
It's a joke, dude. Like, she is one of the best coaches in basketball, period.
Yeah.
Period. She would have been a phenomenal head coach in the NBA.
Yeah.
You know, the Aces are getting her for $1 million a year. It's a joke. She's the highest paid head coach in the WNBA. Yes. But to get that level of a coach for that price, it's nothing. Every team basically in the NBA should have been trying to get her. She's that good.
Couldn't agree more. All right, last team here on the list, the Utah Jazz. Will Hardy, never been a head coach, no records to speak of as a head coach. I mean, the Jazz, I think it's very similar to OKC with Mark Daigneault, where they're just kind of like, do whatever you want, just don't win too much. And yeah, there's zero expectations. Make sure that we get in the lottery, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you on that. I will say, you look at Danny Ainge's history as a general manager and in the front office, what he did in Boston, he blew up the team, traded for a bunch of draft picks, hired Brad Stevens, gave him a long-term contract immediately, put a bunch of talent and just random players around and let him figure it out. They overachieved pretty quickly and built what they have now. And it feels like he's doing the same thing here in Utah. He blows it up, gets a bunch of draft picks, and immediately, again, gives a first-time head coach a long-term deal.
4 years, right?
4-year guaranteed deal.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see Will Hardy for the foreseeable future here in Utah. I think he's going to have a nice long runway. And I'm kind of coming around on Utah's roster in a weird way.
Okay.
And it's to this. They are losing team this season.
Yeah.
They're not going to win a lot. But because they don't have that franchise cornerstone yet, right? Like, you look at Houston with Jalen Green, you look at Orlando with Paolo. They have the guys that their whole season is, can Jalen Green get better? Can Paolo get better?
Right. There's a single focus.
We already know what the team is being built around. Whereas in Utah, I truly don't know who's going to lead the team in scoring this season.
Right.
Like, I really don't know. And so I think for the fans, it's going to be fun to fall in love with these sort of folk heroes, who are going to arise from this random team.
Yeah.
Maybe a Jared Vanderbilt, someone like that, is going to come out of nowhere and score 25 points a game, or something like that is going to happen because you got to score. You got to play out the game.
Somebody's got to do something.
So I think it's going to be fun, and I think Will Hardy perfectly fits into Utah as well. I mean, go ahead and Google a picture of the guy. You'll know.
He looks very Utah.
Yeah, you'll know why I say that.
Which is funny because this is the second time you've brought up a coach looking like they belong where they are.
Yeah.
Danny Ainge, you also brought up with
Brad Stevens.
Stevens. Does not look like Boston whatsoever.
No. But he definitely made a regional pick here with Will Hardy going to Utah.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so some competition within the team you think is going to be an entertaining thing this season.
Exactly. There's going to be fun competition to see who starts and does all that stuff. And there, inevitably something is going to happen that we don't see.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Will Hardy's probably signed a 4-year lease on something, and is like, I'm here at least through this contract.
The THT breakout's going to be fun in Utah.
I almost forgot that he was on the Jazz now. Okay, interesting. Well, that is the Western Conference.
Yep.
That is today's episode. Thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, comment, share, all of that good stuff. We will be back next week as the season gets closer and closer. Next week, basically, when we come back, will be the beginning of training camp.
Oh, my God.
The 27th is day 1 of training camp.
Yeah, media day coming up. So
we got a lot. We got a lot coming down the pipe.
Curious to see what the Phoenix Suns are going to say.
Very curious. Wow. Well, with that, thank you all for joining us.
Yep.
Clayton, what song are we leaving everybody with today?
We are leaving everyone with a little power pop.
Okay.
This is a band called Big Eyes. They're one of those bands. I think they were in Richmond, Seattle at one point, New York City, sort of all over, sort of a principal songwriter that's moved around a bunch. The song is called When You Were 25. The LP is called Stake My Claim. Came out in 2016 on Don Giovanni Records.
Awesome. Well, yeah, a little pop to get everybody going, getting ready for the weekend. Awesome. Thank you all so much. Remember to be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other. We will see you soon.
Thanks.
When you were 21, you had a lot more fun. When I was 21, trying to